BruCast is back, baby.
This BruCast episode is brought to you by the BruCast Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now bru-cast.com/store. Link below. Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BruCast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BruCast is also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where we upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links on the description below. Our guest today is Eugene Lee. So Eugene Lee is a burnout recovery coach helping high achievers build a healthier work-life balance and break free from the stigma around mental health and the workplace. How are you doing, Eugene?
Bro, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. I was so excited about this episode because, as I mentioned before we started, while we're offline, like, I burn out. I went through this, so it sucks. And I'm glad to talk with a professional about it. So, how did you become interested on this?
Well, I think with a lot of people, the best way to become interested in is when it happens to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's scratching my own itch. I need to recover from this. So the best person that I could learn from was, well, myself at the time, I thought. It was all by trial and error. So it all began, basically, I could bring it back as far as my childhood. Ooh. Why was the reason that I burnt out? And it was because of how I was conditioned as a child. Well, I grew up on a farm in Ireland, and you can't blame your parents for these kinds of things. They raise you the best way that they think. That I mean, how were they raised? And they were like, okay, that's the best way. That's the only way I know how to raise my kids. And being part of a big family and a lot of work needs to be done on the farm. If anyone is ever seen to be doing nothing, it's like, hey, why are you not doing anything? There's plenty of work to do. You have to go up to the farm and do some more work. And it's like, okay. And even when you think you have everything done, they'll think of something. It will be from pulling weeds or just cleaning out a shed or something. And it's like, okay, there's always work to be done. And while that may have served me in my childhood and in my teenage years when I went to get a part-time job, because anything seemed better than cleaning out a cow shed in the farm. Anything would at least be a little less smelly. And it may have served me then. It gave me a good work ethic. But as I got older, no matter what I did, I had this narrative in the back of my head that said, anytime that I sit down and I'm doing nothing, that I'm idle or feeling bored, that I'm a waste of space. That you should be doing more. If you have the time to sit down and do nothing, then you're not doing enough. And I carried that narrative with me into my first full-time job. And I was working in microbiology. I was working long shifts. I was doing maybe 48 to 60 hour weeks. And even when I get home after a long shift, I would be restless because I was like, you're still young. You still have some energy left. You should be doing something with that energy. You shouldn't have enough time to sit down and play PlayStation or Xbox for a few hours. You should be investing that energy in other things so that when you're in your 40s and 50s, then you can relax. So I was working long shifts and then trying to do a side hustle as well at the time, trying to do voluntary work as well at the same time, trying to do a part-time university course as well to keep on upskilling and up-leveling. And over the course of the next 6 years, while I was trying to be over-enthusiastic and high-spirited and high energy with everything, that energy level started to wane over time. So because I had created this facade of that Eugene is this high-spirited, high-energy, high-achiever person that nothing can bring him down, I had to compensate for the exhaustion over those years with other sources. So I was looking at, okay, I was eating a lot of junk food. I was eating Mars bars and Snickers and things for sugar, for energy, having a packet of Haribo with me as to get me home from work. So I'd have just that little glucose spike to get me home. And I filled up the back of my car with Red Bull and Monster energy cans. So it was almost like drinking water to me. I was like throwing back 5 or 6 cans a day. Or I got to one point where I had a tub of pre-workout and I just dry scoop pre-workout on my break time at work,
Oh,
so I'd have
gee.
enough energy to get through my day. Yeah, I was like, it sounds insane, but I got to a point where all of this had no effect on me. My tolerance to caffeine was so high that this was just part of my routine, and none of this caffeine was actually having any effect on me. You can imagine what it was doing to my health. And it got to a point was building up all of these bad habits over time. And I was using work as a way to escape all the other responsibilities or problems I had in my life. If anything came up, rather than addressing it, I would say, or I would say, you know what, just go into work and just immerse yourself in the work, do the hard work, and you will feel good once you do that, rather than addressing what are the real problems that are going on here. And that eventually caught up with me when I was 27. I thought I was there just in a normal day's work, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I was about 4 hours into my shift, and I was like, I'm just going to sit down for a second. And next thing I was like, I can't stand up. I can't feel my legs. I can't breathe. And I didn't even then I didn't want to ask anyone in the laboratory with me for help,
So what
because I
was
was like,
what you were doing at the time?
I was working in a microbiology laboratory.
Okay.
And so I was just sitting there, and I was like, okay, I can't feel my legs, I can't breathe, and at the same time, I didn't want to ask for help because I was too humiliated to ask for help. I was like, that makes you look weak. And next thing I was like, okay, something seriously is wrong here. And I went to my doctor. I just told my manager, I was like, I need to go home sick. I never call in for a sick day. And he knew straight up, it's like, something's wrong here. And I went straight to my doctor, and I was like explaining everything that was going on. And they were like, okay, I'm going to prescribe you with 4 weeks off work.
4 weeks. Wow.
And I was like, what? I was like, I can't do that. I can't take 4 weeks off work. That's crazy. And the next thing they were like, you've never taken 4 weeks off work before. And that's precisely why you need this right now. And that was one of the biggest steps that I really appreciate my doctor for, because I know other people who were in similar situation, and the first thing that their doctor prescribed was medication. They were like, okay, you need anti-anxiety medication, or you need antidepressants for everything you're going through here, rather than saying, I think you need some time to just relax and wind down and just offload the pressure for a second and see where you truly stand. So I was prescribed a 4 weeks off work and a recommendation of going for a 2-hour walk every day, preferably in nature. And when I was given that advice, I was like, I felt so uncomfortable, because inside me, I was like, by me not showing up to work, everyone's going to feel like I'm a failure. Everyone's going to feel like I'm letting them down. I'm letting the whole team down. Whereas the rest of my team was like, oh, Eugene's sick. I hope he's okay, but we'll carry on. But my narrative inside me was saying, you have 4 weeks where you just have to sit down, where you should be doing the work. You should be working. And so when I was supposed to be recovering, I was like, okay, what's the quickest way I can recover from this burnout? What's the quickest way I can get back to that normal? So I took on everything I could think of. I was like Googling, I was like, okay, what's the quickest way to cure burnout? I was like, okay, there's yoga, there's meditation, there's exercise. I was like, okay, I'm going to do all of these things over the next 4 weeks, and then I'll be recovered, and then I'll get back to work. And of course, that's not how to cure burnout. You don't take on everything, because that was the problem in the first place. I was taking on too many things, and I was not giving my body a chance to recover. So as a result, went back to work, same thing started happening again. I was like, okay, my energy levels are not there. Everything feels completely worthless. And I felt like I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere I want to go in life. I feel like such a failure. And while from the outside looking in, everyone thought, oh, Eugene's a really happy guy. He's got everything going for him. He's so successful, got a great job. He's got the house. He's got everything. And next thing I was like, yes, but why do I feel so miserable? And that's where it all started. It all started when I took a step back and said, okay, maybe I'm taking on too much here. I'm so overwhelmed by even the smallest things, by even just getting the annual house property tax bill. It stressed me out so much. Just one bill of it was like €300 for the year, and that was stressing me out so much. I was like, why is this one bill stressing me out so much? There must be something else going on here. I had to take a step back and be like, just take a deep breath and just give yourself some leeway here. It can't just be this one thing.
That was
What other things are stressing you out?
That was after your 4 weeks.
This was after my 4 weeks. I
Okay.
had returned to work and I was like, I'm still feeling it.
Okay.
4 weeks was not, I was like, that was my recovery time and I haven't recovered. So then I felt like a failure too. I was like, how was I not able to achieve it in 4 weeks? I had 4 weeks without work and I still feel this way.
Wow. Eugene,
I know that was a lot. That was a lot.
you scooping pre-workout.
Yeah.
That's
And I was scooping pre-workout like it was nothing, as if it was just like sherbet and just throwing it back like sugar. And it was like, and then I would rinse it with a can of Monster, with Monster Energy. And as they're like, there was so much caffeine going into my day,
But-
but it wasn't even giving me that energy.
How
And
how old are you?
how old? I'm 32.
32. Okay. Because the thing is, I believe so that when you're a teenager, those things actually pump you up and you don't feel the side effects. But the thing is, you that's how what I imagine, right? You adhere to those habits, unhealthy habits as a teen, and you carry them over when you're an adult. And of course, your body is not the same anymore. Am I right? That's what happened?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your body adapts as well over time. The thing is
okay.
with caffeine is that your body builds a tolerance to the amount of caffeine. It's the same as alcohol. I mean, when you have your first beer, it's like, oh, the first beer might actually hit you.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking that beer constantly over time and regularly over time, you might not feel the same way after one beer. It might take you 10, 12 beers to feel the same. And next thing, that's where you get the people and they're like, oh, I'm no longer a lightweight and I need to drink 10 or 12 beers to even feel an effect. And it's the same with caffeine. It's like, if you're constantly drinking caffeine, your body's going to build a tolerance to it. And then if you don't get that caffeine, you start feeling withdrawal symptoms and people start getting that morning headache and they say, oh, I can't function in the morning until I've had my first cup of coffee, because they're having caffeine withdrawal symptoms. And for me, that was, I was consuming so much caffeine that it did not have any effect on me anymore. And one of the things I realized, I was like, am I even drinking this kind of Monster for the caffeine anymore? Because I found myself, I was drinking cans of Monster at 10 p.m. at night and still going to bed at 10:30. And it was like, and this was having no effect on me. Or so I thought. Maybe I was having lower quality sleep, but it wasn't perking me up to stay up all night. And next thing, one thing that I did at the time, just I think it's my scientist side of me, my scientist background. I love just running tests, and I was like, okay, I'm going to test myself. I'm going to do this experiment on myself. That instead of drinking the full can of Monster, I'm going to drink half, and then when I get halfway, I'm going to dilute the rest. I'm going to fill the can up with water again, and then I'm going to drink half again. And then once I get around halfway, I'm going to keep on saying, okay, I'm about halfway in, I'll fill up with more water. That way I'm getting less caffeine, I'm getting more hydrated because I'm drinking more water, and I'm still pretty much getting the same taste of Monster. And I found that I got to a point where I was filling up a can completely with water, and there might still just have been the taste, the aftertaste, like surrounding the can. So I would have had that mild watermelon or fruity flavor from the Monster can. And I was like, I'm literally just drinking the water. I just have the habit of drinking from a Monster can, and that's getting me through the day. And I realized I'm no longer drinking this for the caffeine. I'm just drinking this purely out of habit.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a very clever way of tricking your brain to stop drinking it, basically. Have you heard about this? Oh, how it's called again? It's like, I think it's called liquid death. It's like, have you heard about it?
Yeah, yeah, it's sparkling water. They put it as like an alcohol alternative, and it's just flavored sparkling water in a can.
Yeah, but it looks like, from the outside, looks like beer, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. Just by the
Again,
looks
when
of
it
it.
comes to marketing, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But it's some expensive sparkling water in a can.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. So going back to the farm. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's finish the story first. So even when you're getting like the annual tax income for the house, 300 euros, that was like stressing you, and was that moment that you realized I have something like serious, something more. That was the point.
What got to me, like that was just one of those little niggling things where I was like, something is seriously wrong here. You probably should look into this. For me, it was, I had known for some time that I was escaping from my negative emotions. All my negative
Okay.
emotions, I was dulling them. And it got to a point where I realized, I was like, what am I even doing? I felt so worthless in what I was doing. And I was like, I have no energy for all these things. I wanted to achieve so much in life, but I felt no matter what I did, it just wasn't worth it. I no longer have the energy for all these things that I thought I truly wanted in life. I was like, I should be happy. I people think I'm successful. People think that I have everything going for me, and it wasn't even misery. I didn't even know how to feel. I was like, this doesn't feel good. Do I feel depressed? No. I actually don't know how I'm feeling. I had made myself so numb to negative emotion that I had dulled all of the positive emotions also. So I felt like nothing. And next thing I was like, this is no way to be living. This is not how I see myself living for the next 10 years. And that's when I just took it upon myself. I was like, something needs to change. And just the same way that I pursued everything else in life, I was like, this is a time for me to take a step back and being like, where do I want to see myself in 10 years? And it was a journey. It was very challenging for me to take a step back and do nothing for a while. That was the biggest challenge, because what I was doing when I was pursuing so many projects, I was looking for that sense of accomplishment in everything I do, because I thought that taking a step back and thinking of myself for once was selfish. So the best thing that I could do was immerse myself in as many things around me as possible, so that from the outside, people are like, oh wow, he's doing everything. I couldn't do all of those things all at once, almost as if I was superhuman in some way, because I was always accomplishing something. But whenever I took a step back to try and think about what is it that I actually want to achieve in life, I would be like, no, now you're being selfish about it. You should just be out there serving everyone else.
Well, that narrative, like this high achiever narrative that you had within you, like regardless of how negative it was, how negatively it was impacting your life, you cannot deny it's a wonderful narrative to live in a capitalistic society. Like going back to the farm, you said that your parents conditioned you to be a high achiever. Why you're not doing that? There's so much stuff to be done, like pluck the weed out, just like do something, and you carry that over throughout your life and through your work, and it's a problem. It's a problem because like it. I mean, you describe it very well. Like it's cool. Drinking Monster Energy, scooping the pre-workout, having palpitations in your heart. Like it's crazy that it's not more recognized in our society. Like this is something bad that should be avoided. One of the things that you rewrote in your description is that you want to break the stigma around mental health in the workplace. There's a stigma. When you said like you felt guilty about taking some weeks off, Like I can relate to that, and I don't understand what is this stigma surrounding the workplace? Could you talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to talking about mental health in the workplace, if anyone is feeling stressed out, they just say, "Hey, hey, boss, I feel really stressed out right now. I need to take a mental health day. All this project work, I can't take it all at once. I'm just going to need to take some leave." How do you? And even when I say that, if you went to your boss and you were like, "Yeah, you know what, this project, oh, it's a little too much for me. I'm going to take some time off."
Yeah.
How do you perceive how that boss is going to treat you when you come back, or if they even let you take that leave?
Yeah, I don't want to. In a general sense, I think
No,
every single
yeah.
boss.
From personally, if you were to approach a boss and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I've been working on this project for the past 2 months and it's a bit overwhelming, so I'm going to take some time off."
To be honest, I think it depends on the boss. I know I have a colleague, a buddy of mine. He was going through the exact same situation, and his boss had "You just take the whole month off, but don't tell anyone." Just say that I don't know the story that they came up with, but I think it depends on the boss. But I would agree that the majority of them would just look at you and think, "Pfft, weak," you
But
know?
even as you said it there, the boss said, "Don't tell anyone."
Yeah, yeah.
And why is that?
Oh yeah, why? That's true.
Because people are not comfortable talking about their mental health. No one wants to bring up that topic. No one wants to say, "Oh, someone is taking time off because they need to take care of their mental health." It's automatically assumed, "Oh, that person is weak. Oh, they're not up to the task. Oh, they can't handle their workload. Oh, they haven't done their resilience training. They don't know how to deal with stress. Oh, that makes them the weak link on the team." And that's the narrative that has been drilled into people from a young age. It's how you go through school. It's like, oh, there's always the weaker link, the person who cannot finish their maths test within the 40 minutes, the person who cannot write their English essay within the 30-minute deadline. Whereas they could probably write the same high quality work. They just need more time to do it. They can't do it all by memory. They can't remember the whole thing. But if they were given the time and the resources, they could produce probably higher quality content. It might just take more time. And then you just get drained out. You get mentally drained with all this work. People have different things going on personally. People have different capacities on different days. And if you put everyone in the same box, a cookie cutter approach to everything, and treat everyone like we all have different things going on in our lives and it affects us in different ways. If you treat everyone as, "Oh, well, like John can do more work than Susan, so John should be the only one getting promotions. John can do more work in 5 days than Susan can do in 2 weeks because she needs to take time off to take care of her kids." And next thing you're singling out people because they have different circumstances, or it's like, "Oh, one person says, 'Oh, I need to take a sabbatical. I need some time off because I've got troubles at home.'" And next thing you're like, okay, they've got troubles at home. We're not going to question that. Another person says, "Okay, I need to take some time off because I can't make key decisions right now. My head is all over the place. I can't make medical decisions as a doctor. I can't make key decisions as a lawyer because my head's just not in the right mindset. I need a week or two off so that I can rest and recharge." And they're told, "No, you can't do that. You can't take time off. We need you here." And they find themselves as like, I'm being pressured into work when I know that I'm not in the right mental state to do that work. And they feel that their job is being put on the line if someone questions their ability, their mental capacity to do the work. And I've brought this up time and time again with different companies about what resources do you have to mentally to provide mental awareness or mental health awareness to your staff, or maybe counseling services. And they're like, "Oh, we don't really talk about that here. That's their responsibility."
Oh my god.
And it's like you have these. I mean, mental health awareness is a big hashtag that's been used for the past most recent years. Because what we've gone through with the pandemic and everything has affected so many people in so many ways. The next thing is like, okay, let's just pretend those years didn't happen and that no one has trauma from that, that no one has social anxiety from all of that, that it didn't have repercussions and affect how we perceive the workplace. Let's just brush that under the rug and try and go back to what normal was like before any of that happened. It's like trying to forget that a war happened. It's like, you know what? Let's just go back to when things were good, and let's not, see how that may have affected people, because we don't want to deal with those problems.
But Eugene, you're too nice. You're assuming that most companies are human and they care about you. That's not the case.
It doesn't even come down to the companies. A lot of people, as soon as they burn out, it's like, oh, I'm going to blame the big bad boss. I'm going to blame corporate. They're the ones that ruined me, and I'm going to move off the grid, and I'll feel better then. It's not a quick fix. When it comes to burnout and your mental health, this is something that's been conditioned into you over time, and it also reflects how you respond to situations. Not everyone is going to burn out the same way. One workload might be a lot for one person. It might overwhelm one person. Another person might be like, oh, you know what? That's pretty easy for me. I can do that all in a day's work. And it differs from person to person because we have different strengths and weaknesses. So how one person deals with one workload might be completely different to how another person deals with it. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. When it comes to how the workplace deals with it, then it's like, oh, John is really good at doing that task, and other people are struggling at it. Why can't they all do it as good as John? Maybe they're just lazy. Maybe they're just not so focused on the work. Or it's like, no, well, maybe John has previous experience, or maybe John is just naturally talented when it comes to this. It just comes naturally to him, and other people require more assistance or more training. Maybe John can train them. That doesn't click with all companies. And I think it's more than just mental health awareness. We need better communication, more empathy, more adaptability between how leaders want to train their teams so that they can understand their work a bit better. And if they're struggling at the work that they're doing, it's like, okay, we need to have a conversation about that. Rather than putting someone down, rather than berating someone and complaining that they're not doing their job good enough, look at constructive solutions and be like, okay, this isn't really working. What can we do here? What changes can we make? And if this line of work is not suited to you, okay, let's look at something else. Maybe this position is no longer a good fit for you. Rather than showing them the door, be like, well, this position is available in another area. Would you be interested in trying this workout for a while? Maybe you can swap jobs with someone else who's not feeling so like they have a good fit in that area. Or maybe you just work shadow someone for a week or two and see, would you be interested in going to this area instead? Sometimes that's what people need. They need change. They feel that they're stuck in a rut or they're stuck in a loop and they can't get out. And they feel that then when they feel that they can't keep up with the workload, or they feel that they're useless or worthless in the work that they do, then that's what leads to disconnection and misalignment and lack of engagement between workers and the work that they do.
Have you watched this TV show it's from Apple TV? It's called Severance.
Severance? No, I have heard about it.
Oh, it's wonderful. So it's basically what you described. So there's this guy, I won't spoil anything, don't worry. There actually is a word, like there's this world or this company that invented a microchip, Neuralink, something like that you put into your brain. And whenever you have this in your brain, you now have a choice. If you have the choice to go to work, and whenever you are at work, you completely forget about your personal life. It's like your personal life don't exist. You just arrive at work, and as soon as you leave work, you reappear at work because you don't remember your personal life. And the same thing happens with your personal life. Whenever you're outside of work, you're just hanging out with your friends and traveling. But whenever you go to work, you just reappear back into your personal life. So basically, you have a split personality, but it's the same body. and it's an amazing show. It's a thriller, suspense. I would highly recommend. And I just remember it because I'm pretty sure, like while you're talking about it, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in our today's world would definitely put a chip like that in their brains because they're so disconnected from their work already due to the circumstances that you just described. That why not just disconnect for real? Why not?
It's funny the way you say that because the reason why they think they're disconnected from their work, but the problem is that they are still so worried about all their problems and all their work that
Yeah,
their worries from work bleed into their personal life.
yeah,
That even when they're at home and they're with their partner or with their kids, they feel connected to the work or they're still thinking about work problems. They're not fully present in what they do outside of the workplace, and that's where I remember when this came up about severance, and they're telling me about the work-life balance. Oh, this is where you can separate work from your personal life. And next thing is like, okay, now you have a split personality where you're the work person. And next thing you could meet someone from work outside of work, and you wouldn't know who they are.
yeah. That's the show. That's amazing.
But like it's about having that a complete disconnect between your work life and your personal life. Whereas the amount of hours that we put into work in our week, it is a majority of all of our life is spent at work. And where in, let's say, in the boomer generation, it was like, oh, you spend 40 years working 40 hours a week and then you can start living once you retire. And it's like, what kind of way is that to live? And now our generation and the generations after us are like, yeah, no, that's not the way I want to live. I actually want to enjoy the work I do. I want to be of service to others and really just live my passion. And they're not happy with that because the system has been made to be like, oh, no, you have to do your 40-hour weeks and do it for the next 40 years for our pension system to work. Otherwise everything's going to crumble. And it's like, okay, it's time to time to reimagine how we do this. And there's a lot of change. I think we're going to see a lot of change in the next 10 years. And what we're seeing right now, especially with seeing a lot of people burning out, it's that divide, the misalignment between the old ways of working, what worked back then, and what works now. And where we're seeing real growth and like real development in some companies is where they're saying like, okay, what can we do for our people? And people are so like, we need to put the customer first. It's like, no, you need to put your people first so that you can serve your customer at the highest level. If you don't take care of your team can't serve your customer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take it on as an individual, even as a solopreneur. You know that, no, I need to have the right systems in place. I need to have my agencies, or I need to have whoever I'm hiring to make sure that they complete delivery, that I can get all my shipments together, that I can organize my finances. They need to all be aligned so that everything flows, so that I can provide a good service. And the same with even the bigger companies, they need to stop treating people as dispensable or disposable. That they can just be like, oh, you know what? They might do 2 or 3 years, completely burn out, and then we'll hire a few more students or hire a few more interns, burn them out too, and keep on just doing that process.
Well, I agree with you, but when you say they need to stop doing that, I agree, but like I don't see that happening. Why would they? Like they're making more money that way. So you said that we're gonna see a lot of changes in the 10 years. Like, what do you see changing in that regard?
Is what's going to differentiate the companies that succeed and the ones that don't. Do you know how much it costs to train people
No.
into a role? If you consider all the health and safety trainings and everything, going through probation periods and then training them into the task, and next thing, the amount of hours, I think it takes, for every 10-minute task, it takes 300 minutes to train someone to do a 10-minute task. So if you're looking at an 8 hour day, how long does it take to train someone in to do an 8 hour day? If you think of all those training hours. And next thing is like, okay, and then we've got specialized projects or we've got specialized skills. And you've done that and you've trained someone, it probably takes them half a year to train them, all that money into training. And next thing, you might get 12 months, 18 months out of them, and you have to repeat the process. Whereas if you invest more into the continual training of that person, get them, really buy them into the vision of, you know what, this is a good company to work for. And it provides a good service, and I feel fulfilled in the work I do. And I really have this connection with my team. And I want to see this company succeed. I feel like it's making impact. I feel like I'm making impact. And you stay with that company for the next 10 years. Or when you do leave, you can say, I have fulfilled where I am in this company. I've fulfilled my role. Either I can choose to move up in this company or move out and maybe recommend to someone else who would be a good fit to replace me. That helps to take out a lot of the recruiting process, that you can give a good reference to someone else that might be a good fit. It takes a lot of guesswork out for the company. It's building these connections over time. This is the way forward. We need to connect more. We need to communicate more. We need to build that vision. If you want anyone to follow you, or if you want anyone to buy in on what you're providing, the service you're providing, they need to trust you. They need to like you. They need to know that what you're offering them is going to have an impact on how they live their lives.
Let's say that I'm an employee who is stuck, feels stuck in one of those companies that do not want change, that do not value me, and just hire like to hire people like students and then fire them. Like what would you say to a person like that? Because uh, from that perspective, I think they all agree with you, like I do, but I don't see how like a way out of it. Like things would change for sure, but I don't know if they would change in that company. I feel like most of those changes they would just happen when new people create new companies, right? That's what I would imagine, because some of those big companies, they're so ingrained in their ways, they're so big and massive and slow to change that I don't see them changing. Like I don't know what was this quote again. I don't remember the quote, what I was talking, but it was basically about something that sometimes you just need old to die in order to have a new way, like a new way to be born, from someone another place. You know what I'm talking about? Did I explain it well?
I have come across like where there's these multinationals and they were like, oh, this is the
Yeah.
way we've been doing it for the past 50 or 60
Yeah.
years. Next thing AI happens.
Yeah.
How much money do you think they invested in AI? AI comes out of nowhere and they're like, oh wow, this can save us so much time. Let's put millions into that. Do you think they treated their workers the same way in the past 50 years? Where they were like, you know what, if we put this money into our workers, they might stay long term. They might upskill and they might, help to expand the company where it's never been before. Do you think they took those risks on
No,
on people
I
the
don't
same
think
way that they
so.
took on AI?
No, no, for sure not.
If you think about how companies invest in their software, how much do they spend on maintenance of that software? How much do they spend on updating that software? How frequently do they update that software? Do they train their employees the same? Do they look after their employees' health and well-being the same? Do they even have monthly, weekly, daily check-ins with their employees to see, hey, same way as they're rebooting their computers, that to make sure that everything's running smoothly? Are they checking to make sure that, hey, are we good here? Is everything running smoothly? Are you thinking clearly? Do you know what task you have to do today? Or are they just looking and being like, okay, I know that 50% of the employees are coming in today and just running on the hamster wheel and flicking through emails, marking them all read, unread, and putting them into folders and going home, doing nothing?
Hmm. Yeah, that's complicated, man, because I I think their mindset is like softwares. They're reliable. they're something that you pay and you get it. People not so much. I don't know. I don't know why they don't invest more in people. Now I'm I'm infuriated now.
That's the thing. This is what gets you thinking: is software reliable? It's
Yeah.
reliable when it works. What happens when those computers crash? What happens when servers crash? And they're like, oh, nothing you can do until the server's back online. Do they say the same to their people? It's just they're like, oh, and someone's taking a day off, and it's like, well, you can't take a day off. You can't take a day off. I need you in the office. And it's like, no, well, I'm taking a day off. They won't treat that person the same way that they treat the server going offline. They'll just accept it. It's like, well, there's nothing we can do about that server going offline. We're just going to have to wait for it to come back on. Or, hey, let's look for a backup server. If a person gives them short notice and says like, oh, I can't come in today, and they say that's not good enough, that's not a good way of approaching people. We need to treat people with at minimum the same importance as we're treating our software and our machinery.
That's crazy. I never thought that way. That's insane. Why they do that? Do you think it has something to do with control? Like the software, maybe they feel they have some sense of control over the software, but when it comes to people, they feel mad at themselves because they don't have control over you. That's so weird.
It's treating people as a resource.
Okay.
They treat people as a resource, and they see it as an expendable resource. And
I
that's the way a lot of companies just view people. And with that comes from a place of power. And these are real conversations that we need to have in the workplace. The reason that structure is there is because no one chooses to question it. Just think, oh, you can't have that conversation. When I first started my podcast, when I recovered from burnout,
No.
I was like, there's one thing that was missing when I was on my journey, and that was resources. There weren't many people talking about burnout then, especially not men. And burnout represents itself in different ways for men than it does for women. So I was like, okay, and any other guys talking about this? And I was like, no. I was like, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share what I felt, see if anyone else relates to that. And I was like, look, I wasn't confident talking on camera at all. So here I was just recording on Anchor on my phone, and like pausing every few seconds every time I stammered, and then deleting it and trying to start it again. And I was just shaking. And next thing I just put a warning at the start of my episode being like, look, this might be raw and uncomfortable for some people to hear, but if it helps at least one person be like, you know what, I'm feeling that way, and maybe I should get help. If one person hears this and they do that, then this is a win for me. And I recorded my first 4 episodes, published them. 90% of the feedback that I got back was so negative. It was horrific. People were like, how dare you talk about that on social media? You know, you've ruined your career. You've committed career suicide by talking about your mental health online. No one is going to want to hire you. They're going to think you're broken.
When was that? Which year?
This was less than 2 years ago. So I was about 3 years after. It took me about 3.5 years to recover from my burnout through trial and error to really figure out what was the burnout cycle. Why was I so prone to burnout, and what boundaries do I need to put in place to make sure that doesn't happen again? What signs do I need to look out for to make sure that doesn't happen again? When I see myself overextending, or when I start feeling exhausted, or I start getting cynical about really small things, and giving importance to things that wouldn't bother me another day, like just like that tax bill. I was like, that wouldn't have bothered me any other time of the year. I was like, why was it bothering me then? And once I started sharing these things with people, and they started saying, stop doing this. You're actually going to ruin your career. No one's ever going to want to hire you. It wasn't them. They thought it was coming from a place of them saying, I'm doing him a favor because he's going to ruin his life by talking about his mental health. They were coming from a place where they thought, if I talk about my mental health the same way that Eugene is, then I will never get a job again. No one is going to want to hire me if they think I'm that weak. Whereas if they all started opening up about it, action would have to be taken. If everyone said, yeah, I'm in the same line of work and this is how I feel. It's not fair. I can't show up at my best. If there was any possible solution or any help that I could get, that I could show up better, I would take it in a heartbeat. And the more I started sharing, I was like, people want me to shut up. They want me to quieten down because they don't want to address these feelings that I'm bringing up in them. And that's because they're not used to people talking about this. They think that they need to be quiet because everyone else around them is quiet on this topic too. So the more I talk about this, the more I can normalize talking about these feelings, talking about where I feel vulnerable, where I feel weak, where I feel that some parts of my life I can never open up about. And maybe there's someone else out there who feels the same way. And maybe we both need to get support on that. And instead of talking to ourselves negatively, if we could only show a little bit of compassion and be like, you know what, it's okay to feel this way. And yes, it feels pretty bad right now. And it really hurts. But there is a way to get better. It takes hard work. It's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of great and hard work to get there. But there is a way out of this. And once I started sharing those and doing interviews with more people saying like, hey, do you feel this way? Do you want to share that story? And maybe offer one possible way for someone to get out of this situation? Let's have a chat about that. Once I started having those conversations with more people, I was like, okay, this is a lot more normal than I was led to believe. So many people are feeling the same way. They follow the same pattern. They hit the same rock, different rock bottoms, but they follow the same pattern. They hit a rock bottom and they realize this situation is getting really bad and I need to do something about this. It might not be my fault that I've gotten this way, but it's my responsibility to make that change if I want to ever feel better. And then you start to improve. And next thing you're like, wow, life is so much better on the other side of this. Now that I've made small changes in my life, now that I've realigned what I actually do want to live for, it's no longer the big vision of like, oh, money will make everything better. And living for nothing else but trying to get the extra zero on your bank account. It's like, no, I really just wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to spend my weekends with my daughter. I wanted to go on an extra, a 6-month holiday with my wife. Those are the things that make me happy. I don't care about the extra zeros. And in finding that fulfillment in their lives is like, you know what, life actually got a lot easier. I can breathe a little more easily now. It's simple changes that we make in our life that make things easier and makes life a lot more enjoyable.
So let's talk about those simple changes. So you mentioned that it took you about 2 years to recover fully, and you identify a few signs that you realize are signs of burnout. So let's walk through this recovery process, starting with the signs of burnout. You mentioned that someone who has burnout or is about to burn out gets exhausted faster, gets bothered more easily. What other signs can you look out for?
Yeah, so that exhaustion can present itself physically, emotionally, and mentally. So physically, you feel like, oh, I can't get out of bed. And it's like, I just don't have the energy to do anything today. Or when you get to work, it's like, I just feel brain fog. I don't
Brain
have the
fog.
mental clarity to do anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or even emotionally, you just be emotionally drained. People might expect things. It's like, how do you feel right now? Or for me, one of the emotional exhaustion, it happened about 6 months before I burnt out. So about 10 years ago, I was at a Foo Fighters concert in Ireland, and it was torrential rain. It was just bucketing out of the sky. And I was about half a mile away from the stage, and Dave Grohl was there running along the runway, and it was euphoric. The atmosphere was amazing. And next thing, I saw him again about 6 months before I burnt out. So it would have been about about 6 years from the last time I'd seen him. And this time it was beautiful sunny day in Germany, and I was about maybe 100 yards away from the stage, and I was like, I'm this close to the Foo Fighters. There's Dave Grohl, there's Taylor Hawkins. I was like, I'm so close. And I did not have the same buzz. And I was with my best friend, and he looked at me and he was like, Eugene, is everything okay? And I just turned to him and I said, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the buzz that I usually feel at a concert. Like I was sober. I was standing there and I was like, usually this is when I'm most connected with the band, with the music, when I'm this close and I feel that energy at a gig. And I was like, I'm not feeling the buzz. And he was like, is there something wrong with you? And he was kind of half joking, being like, this isn't like you. You're usually like, you're in the mosh pit, you're up at the barrier, you're really like high energy here. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. And even then I knew, okay, I was like, something's up. There's something here that I'm not addressing. And that was all the negative emotions that I pushed down, not feeling. It also dulled all the positive I was feeling as well at the time. I no longer knew how to regulate that emotion. I had exhausted myself to such a level that it wasn't that I was having emotional outbursts because I didn't know how to regulate that emotion. I was just pushing everything down, and I didn't know when to feel happy about anything or when to feel sad about anything. It just felt numb. I was living on autopilot. I was living like a drone, just going through the motions and being like, yeah, I'll go on holidays next month, but I can work 60 hours every day in between. It's not going to affect me emotionally. It was just going through the motions and not really looking forward to anything. So there was that emotional exhaustion. The next thing you mentioned was the cynicism, or the kind of the disconnecting from people. It's the depersonalization. So we had the exhaustion. It can be physical, mental, and emotional. The next is depersonalization. So that can affect not only you and your work colleagues if you're so cynical and complaining about everything around you, so just negative, that you're like, oh, nothing is going my way. Oh, this team meeting is taking too long. Oh, this project is being dragged out, and you have all this cynicism and negativity towards everyone around you, but you're not actually offering any constructive solution. Everything is negative, and you're like, oh, you're the Debbie Downer, or you're the negative Nancy in the room, and that just brings everyone else down. They're like, well, that's really having an effect on the team morale here. No one wants to be around you because all you do is complain and moan all the time. And it leads to a sense of detachment from the work that you do also, because you're not going to take responsibility for anything. You're just going to be like, well, if this fails, it fails. One thing I did this with an interview recently. Someone told me that their burnout experience was, it was like spinning plates. So you know the circus, and they're spinning all the plates on the sticks, and they said that they were spinning like 40 plates at once, and they're going around and they're trying to spin the plates that are wobbling so that they can get them up again, and running around the stage and trying to get all the wobbling plates to spin again. And they said that's what they felt like they were doing. And if they were told, oh, why don't you just spin less plates? They were like, no, I have to keep all of these going at the same time. That's the only way I know how to operate. When you get to a place of cynicism and detachment, you have gotten so far that you don't care if you break a few plates. You're like, oh, if that breaks, then I don't care. I'm just going to keep on spinning these ones here close to me. But if something gets damaged in the process, I've gone past the point of caring. And even at that point, when you say that you're detached from it, you still feel like you're losing a sense of your worth. There's still a reduced sense of your personal accomplishment. That you feel that no matter what I do, those plates are going to break. I don't care anymore. I just know that back when I had the energy, I wouldn't have let that happen. So you're still talking negatively to yourself. You're no longer feeling as accomplished or as successful as you used to. and you don't know how to get out of that cycle. You're like, well, I don't have the energy anymore. I'm too exhausted to try and find a solution. I've detached myself from any sense of responsibility that I should be the one to change it. Everything is happening to me and I can do nothing about it. And that's when you know you've gotten to a place where you feel so useless and worthless. And it happens a lot more to men because they don't have the connections or the support or the network to say, like, you know what, I'm having a really tough time here and I feel overwhelmed and overloaded and I don't know how to get myself out of this hole. Not many men have the courage to speak up and be that vulnerable with others. And that's where you find people where they bottle down all that emotion or bottle down all those fears, and they either act out with an emotional outburst or they check out. They just give up.
Isn't
And that's where we find ourselves.
isn't there a Burnouters Anonymous, something like that? I'm sure that would be very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, there's like Workaholics Anonymous is one of the main ones that I've come across, where you find people and they literally just like work themselves into burnout.
Okay.
It, the problem with burnout is that the taboo we have around talking about our mental health, the stigma around our mental health, no one is talking about it. And no one is going to approach their manager and say, like, yeah, I really need to seek help for burnout. They're not even telling their families. They're not telling their friends. They're probably not going to admit it to themselves. And it's very hard for people to say, like, you know what, I'm feeling pretty burnt out. I've had people reach out and say, I'm having I'm having a burnout, but and I was like, yes, let's talk about it. And they're like, oh no, I don't really want to talk about it because it's probably nothing. And like, if you've gotten to a place where you think it's burnout, it probably is burnout. Or you're recognizing the early signs. Great, let's do something before it gets worse. But a lot of people just brush it off because they feel, oh, if I bring it into my awareness, then it becomes real. And then I'm going to be stuck. If you bring it into your awareness, it's like, great, now we can do something about it. Now we can start making the changes so that you can either prevent it from getting worse, or if you've already hit a rock bottom, that we can start making changes for a more positive change in your life so you can start living again.
Let's talk about the changes. What changes can someone do to avoid, prevent, or recover from burnout? So, talking, one of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you have a support network, if you can reach out and engage with others, be it your friends, be it your colleagues at work who probably are experiencing the same thing, reach out to your family, reach out to your spouse, or seek professional help. Seeking professional help sometimes is the best option. Most companies offer an employee assistance program where you can get 6 to 8, maybe more, 6 to 8 weeks of 100% confidential counseling. And for some people, it's just being able to reach out to a third party and be like, this is what I'm going through. They're coming from a place of zero judgment, compassion towards them. And it's just having that neutral party who can see, okay, I can see where you're coming from. And yes, I can see why you might feel that way. Have you considered this? Have you considered how it might make this person feel? And you get to a level where you start thinking differently. You get out of your own head. You get out of that negative self-narrative that you keep feeding yourself every time you think of these thoughts. So yes, seeking support and having that conversation. Once you say these feelings out loud for the first time, it can be very raw and uncomfortable at first. But once you say it out loud, you're like, yeah, I really don't feel well. As soon as you say that, it's like, okay, it's more tangible now. I've said it out loud. It's no longer growing out of proportion inside of my head. it feels a lot more easier to manage. Okay, now that I've said it out loud, it's like, what can I do about that? And if you're in a state of emotional and mental exhaustion, you probably you're probably too brain fogged to try and come up with a change. But if you're talking to a professional or someone who's been through this before, then they can probably say like, "Hey, you know what? This is what helped me. Maybe we can try this out." Or even reaching out to your loved ones. If you've been completely detached from them for so long, and you just say, "You know what? I'm really feeling the pressure right now. I feel really down. I'm so burnt out at work and I need support." 9 times out of 10, they're going to be there to support you. If they're not there to support you, then they're not good friends or family to have around. They're not good to have in your environment if they're not there to support you. Maybe it's from a place of misunderstanding because, and this is the caveat. Sometimes when you reach out to people and they say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that right now," it's not because they're coming from a place where they don't care about you. It might be bringing up uncomfortable feelings for them also, and they're not ready to address that just yet. So maybe you reach out to loved ones and they deflect or get defensive. Then it's time to say, okay, maybe they were the wrong person for me to reach out to. Maybe it's time I should contact a mental health professional first. But 9 times out of 10, if you reach out to a loved one and say that, you know, I'm having a really tough time right now and maybe I need space or I need support right now or I need help but I don't know where to get it from, 9 times out of 10 they're going to offer you that help. Or at least say, hey, let's Google different counselors in the area or different coaches. Let's look at possible solutions that we can get started on right now so you can get on that road to recovery.
Um, so would you say that 9 times out of 10, just doing that solves the problem? Talking to people, reaching out to your family, to a counselor, maybe, so you make it real. Or would you recommend taking additional steps?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the best first steps.
First steps, okay.
Is one of the first steps is bringing your own self awareness to this is a problem. This is a problem, but we can solve this. We can overcome this, and yes, it is a long road to recovery. But I am willing to make that change because I deserve to live a much better life than this. I deserve to get out of this hole.
Got it. I'm surprised. So, for me, for me, burnout or like this feeling of being a high achiever comes from anxiety. Whenever it happens, it comes from anxiety. I'm surprised that we didn't talk about anxiety at all. And one of the things that really helped me and still helps me to this day with anxiety is sports. Joe Rogan said once that for him, sports is like brushing the teeth in the morning. It's non-negotiable. Like it's something that you need to do every single day in order to feel okay with yourself and bring down the levels of anxiety to a manageable level. So when I heard him saying that, I was like, huh, I never thought about it. And since I implemented like regular sport in my daily routine and adapt to adhere this mindset, like it's like brushing your teeth, you need to do it. I slowly realized that I didn't have to be such a high achiever that much as well. So if I may add something, I would say sports definitely helps. At least it helped me.
Yes, 100%. And again, having your non-negotiables is
Yeah.
another big thing to have in your life when it comes to improvement. Like when you're so burnt out that you don't have the time for physical exercise, the last thing you want to do is go like, oh, I'm going to do 15 heavy sets in the gym. You don't have the mental or the physical capacity for that. But that's something that you need to work up to because that physical exertion gives you so much endorphins, and you feel stronger, more confident in yourself in that exercise.
Yeah.
And yes, anxiety, imposter syndrome, insecurity, instability, all of these things take a toll on you when you're trying to get better and you're like, oh, but I don't have the evidence to support that I am worth doing that or worth improving, or I feel useless. I don't want to waste my time on something that I feel I can't pursue, a goal that seems out of my reach, out that I'm getting out of my depth. But these are things that you work on over time. For me, exercise is a non-negotiable 3 to 4 times a week, and I just have that in my routine. I'm like, nope, I have my lifting days, like every second day, but I also on the days in between, I have compassion that I say, no, you went to the gym yesterday, so today's recovery day. Today you relax because tomorrow you can show up to the gym even better if you give yourself the time to relax in between. And you kind of get to the place of diminishing returns, that if you're pushing yourself every day, you're not going to show up with the same intensity at the gym every day. And next thing, you have a bad workout and you're like, oh, you did so much better last week. Oh, you're not getting the same lifts as you did last week. Your body needs time to recover. And that's where, yes, pursuing hobbies that bring you fulfillment, like exercise. And if you're it can be anything. It can be cycling, it can be swimming, it can be dancing, it can be weightlifting, it can be calisthenics. These are all ones that I've seen building people's confidence. And again, it's finding the joy in your life again. For me, one of the trackers that I used to monitor when I knew I was after recovering from burnout was when I found myself singing in the shower again.
Ooh.
I was like, okay, that means I have joy in my life. And when I catch myself just singing in the shower, it's like, okay, I must be happy that that I was able to get into a default mode and subconsciously start just humming or whistling or singing in the shower. I was like, okay, I'm obviously happy again. And it was something that I wasn't every time going into the shower being like, okay, you're going to have to sing if you're going want to feel better. It was like, no, when do I find myself, I just catch myself off guard and I'm like, oh, you actually seem really happy today. It's bringing that into your awareness. But when you are extremely burnt out, intense exercise doesn't really help.
Oh.
For me as well, a quick point on when exercise doesn't help. A lot of these personal development or techniques, when they say exercise, things that are self-help, when they don't really help is when you have the wrong narrative or the wrong reason why you're pursuing it. So if you're exercising every day to say like, oh, I want to get that six pack, and if I don't exercise every day, I'm a failure, that's having the wrong narrative. Or for me, I was running a lot before I burnt out. I was running because I was like, if I run, I'm going to feel fitter and I'm going to have all those endorphins and I'm going to feel much better when I finish my day. But I was exhausting myself. I was already working long days, and I found that when I was going for those runs or doing intense exercise, I was using it as a way of not having to feel my feelings. I was escaping. I was literally running away from my own thoughts and running away from my problems so that I wouldn't have to deal with them for that 20 or 30 minutes. That's when you have the wrong narrative and it's not actually helping you to recover or to improve your health. You have to come from a place of compassion. What is the reason why I'm doing this activity? Is this to better myself? Do I feel good when I do this activity? And if I don't reach my goal, let's say if I set a target of running 6 miles and I only run 5, how do I talk to myself afterwards? Do I say, oh, you're a failure? Or say, oh, you didn't run as far as you usually do. Maybe you're feeling a bit off. Maybe we need to allow more time for recovery here. Maybe you had a lot of stress at work today. Or maybe you feel that niggle in your knee or in your ankle. Maybe we should get that looked at. You need to have that self-awareness of, how does this activity make me feel? If I don't reach my goal, that's okay. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Give yourself a bit of compassion. If we want to improve ourselves, we need to take care of ourselves first. And that's a very hard thing for a lot of high achievers to get into their heads because they've been conditioned for so long that they're not good enough and they need to keep on striving for more. It can be very hard for them to break that conditioning and start taking care of themselves first before serving others.
All right, so recovery is all about self-love.
Yes, self awareness, self compassion, self care. They're the foundations to recovery. If you don't have the self awareness to say, okay, there's something here I want to fix, there's something here I need to change, and if you don't have the self compassion to say, I need to treat myself like my best friend. If you think about if your best friend was going through this, and your best friend was exhausted all the time and depressed and didn't want to do anything, and next thing you said, hey, come on, hey, let's go for a walk and see how you feel. And next thing they walk for about 20 minutes and they say like, nah, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm really tired. Would you turn to them and say, oh, you're just being lazy. Oh, you're giving up after 20 minutes. Oh, why are you so weak? You wouldn't keep that friend around for very long if that's how you talk to them. So why would you talk to yourself that way?
Ooh. Eugene spitting facts right here on BruCast. Man, you're right. Yeah, but we normally don't stop to think like that, right? So you really need to, yeah, hit rock bottom, burnout, find a pathway of recovery to start thinking like that. That's what it looks like. Wow.
And when it comes to burnout as well, I mean, your definition of rock bottom, it differs from person to person. For some people, it could be they lose their whole family, they lose they go bankrupt, they find themselves homeless, and that's rock bottom. For other people, they might have, they got home and they're like, oh, I can no longer pay for my car, I'm going to have to sell my car. That could be a rock bottom moment for them. But they could still have the house, they could still have the family, they could still have $1 million in the bank, but and next thing, and that could be a rock bottom moment for them. They could just feel, okay, I have the house, I have the car, I have a 7-figure income, but I feel so miserable in the work that I do. I feel like a slave. That could be their rock bottom moment. The problem is, a lot of people don't hit rock bottom, but they get just close enough that they're living with the pain, but it's not enough for them to make a change. So they have all the negative emotion, they feel miserable, they have so much pain in their life, but for some reason it's not enough. They say, you know what, I shouldn't be complaining right now, everything is falling apart, but if I look for help, people are going to say, oh, well, you should be grateful for what you have. How is this a rock bottom moment for you? It could be so much worse. And when they hear that, they just don't make the change. And things will get a lot worse if they don't make the change. So people need to define what rock bottom means for them. How bad does it need to get in order for them to make a change? There's one example of a guy, and he was 250 pounds. And he was like, oh, I feel a bit overweight. And, you know, I want to get down to my goal weight of about 180. And next thing he was like, oh, going to the gym is so hard. It's so hard at being 250. And 180 seems so far away. So he gives up. 6 months later, he's 300 pounds. How much more difficult is it going to be for him to lose from 300 pounds down to 180 now? And then he's feeling more depressed. He doesn't like looking at himself in the mirror. And going to the gym, it takes a lot more effort to lift those weights now. It takes more effort to get on that treadmill. It takes more effort to do calisthenic workouts or to do pull-ups again. You're making life more difficult for yourself by saying, okay, I'm going to wait until I get to a real deep rock bottom moment before I decide to make any change. It's not always our fault when these things happen to us, because it may be the only way we know how to live life. We've never been taught any better. But when we realize that I'm not happy with the way things are, But I'm sure there's a solution to this. I'm sure there's a way out of this. Maybe there's a way that I can live a more enjoyable life without these pressures. There is a way out. It takes a bit of research. It takes changing your environment. It takes making even the simplest changes in your life. One of the simplest changes that I tell everyone is starting your day with a glass of water. When you wake up first thing in the morning, you drink a glass of water, that's your win.
Why?
And people tell me, they tell me it's like, that sounds so ridiculous. You know, one glass of water is going to change my life? I could do that every day. And I'm like, great, do it.
Why? But what's the point? I don't get it.
What's the point in starting your day with a glass of water?
I mean, I know you probably you got dehydrated during the night, and it's good for your health. But other than that, like, why is that so impactful in your opinion?
Yeah, you get dehydrated over the night, and sometimes the first thing people reach for in the morning is, oh, I have a headache, I'm going to take paracetamol. Do you know what? I don't function in the morning until I've had my coffee. So the first thing they have is their coffee. They're starting their day off at a loss. But you start off your day with a glass of water, you're probably going to start thinking clearly. You're going to rehydrate your brain. You're going to detox whatever is built up in your body overnight. You're going to feel fresher once you start drinking that glass of water a habit. And delaying having that coffee for an hour or two. When you wake up first thing in the morning, your cortisol, the stress hormone is high in your body. So when you drink coffee, when you drink caffeine, your body doesn't give you the same response to caffeine as it would if your cortisol levels were lower. So you actually get a better energy response or focus response from caffeine. About 90 to 120 minutes, so about 2 hours after you wake up, your cortisol levels will be lower, and you will get more of a hit out of that cup of coffee than if you drink it first thing in the morning. So it's funny when I explain like that to some people. I can get very geeky. Food science is my background, and I can get really geeky in how caffeine actually works. It's not like this mana potion that just gives you that energy to get through the day. I always bring up it's because you're a gamer too.
Yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah.
So I always bring up like my two examples when it comes to like caffeine and sleep aid and alcohol. I always bring up either The Witcher or Fallout. So in Fallout, you've got if you take alcohol, or if you take your whiskey or your vodka, or you take Buff or Jet or Psycho and all of these drugs that like boost you to get through like different missions. But if you take them all the time, then you're going to get addicted, and it's going to have withdrawal symptoms. It's going to negatively affect your stats. And that's the same thing with all these things. If you rely on caffeine and alcohol and sleep aids and painkillers to get through your day, then your body is no longer going to function at the way it was without all of these coping mechanisms and dependencies. But if you can function the same and have the same clarity and energy with something as simple as having a glass of water, practicing breath work, getting that mental clarity and energy from small, regular things. One of the simplest things I ask people first thing in the morning is to smile. Go into the bathroom, look in the mirror and smile. Now you've received one smile for the day. That's a win. You've smiled at someone, and at least one person has smiled back. It might just be your reflection, but someone has smiled back. Now, if you smile at anyone else, it could be your partner, it could be your kids, it could be your dog. If you smile at anyone else, that's a bonus. And if you keep on doing that and you smile at someone else and they smile back, you're winning for the day. And that's enough positive psychology. If you're like, okay, I'm getting more comfortable with smiling, I'm getting more comfortable with seeing my smile, and I'm getting more comfortable with seeing other people smile at me, your day is going to brighten up over time. And it might sound ridiculous at first, but that's one of the simplest ways that I get people started. I challenge them to smile at their reflection. And you're going to have one smile back. Great, you started your day off with a smile. Drink a glass of water. might sound ridiculous, but hey, if you start off your day by drinking that glass of water for the next 2 or 3 weeks, let me know how you feel. If you come back and tell me you feel terrible, we might need to look at your water source. There might be some heavy metals in there. We might, or fluoride or something is throwing you off. We might need to look at your water source.
Yeah, while you're talking about the smile thing, I remembered about this study. Let's share the screen right here. So apparently, fake smiling is already enough to improve your mood. Like you can trick your brain into believing that you feel good. So there we go. Medical news today. Is faking a smile enough to improve your mood? Humans communicate their feelings through their facial expressions. Facial feedback theory states that this can change the way we feel. New international research has shown that posing with a fake smile can make people feel happier, but it doesn't change their levels of anger or anxiety. But it makes you feel happier. It's already a win, right? So the scientists also found people who viewed positive images felt happier than those who didn't view the images. So you can literally faking until you make it. Yeah, there you go. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. You can literally fake it till you make it when it comes to you, and maybe that it's not going to bring you to 100% happiness for the day, but that could be the 1% that you need to be like, okay, you know what, that makes my morning a little bit brighter, and next thing you smile, and next thing the smile becomes a bit more genuine. You've brightened up your day by 1%, and it's like, okay, it makes other things seem that little bit easier. Over time, it becomes more natural, and you're like, you know what, my mornings feel a bit brighter. I'm not forcing that smile anymore. I really feel good. And that takes time. That's the thing I always tell people. There's no quick fix to this. You need to change your lifestyle. It's the same as any fad diet where people are like, oh yeah, the 12-week transformation, I'll have my six-pack. And if you're only eating the chicken, the broccoli, and the rice for 12 weeks, yeah, sure, you might lose a lot of weight, but if you don't keep that up, you're probably going to put that weight back on. If you don't make a sustainable habit that makes you feel better and makes you feel healthier and replenish those energy levels in a way that you know you can maintain for the rest of your life, then those changes aren't worth making.
Yeah, I mean, if you find a balance, like you don't need to eat chicken and rice every day. You could maybe eat chicken and rice 3 times per week, 4 times per week, and then the other days you eat something else. I think I'm recalling now the energy drink that you had. Like you started mixing with water, so you tried to find something a little more balanced, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so again, that was just for me. I was like, you know what, I'm spending a lot of money on these energy drinks. I was like, maybe if I dial it back, it's like, am I doing it for the energy, or am I just doing it for the taste, or am I just doing it purely out of habit? And next thing, when I found myself, and it was funny, my partner at the time was like, she'd go to grab the can of Monster out of the fridge, and then she's like, "Oh no, this is the water can. This one has just water in it. What are you doing, you psycho?" And I was like, well, if it stops me drinking or opening a new can of Monster, and I have the habit of just picking up that can and drinking from it, then I'm better off drinking that water.
Yeah, my mom used to say like everything in life is like balance. There's no such thing like completely bad or completely good, because anything in excess is bad. You can take water, for example. If you drink like 1 glass of water in the morning, that's good, and drink a couple of glasses of water throughout the day, that's amazing. But if you drink like 30 liters of water like in the morning, that's not healthy. So it's about balance, right? All
Yeah,
of this that we're talking about.
exactly. If you
Yeah.
drink too much water, your body can only handle so much at once. If you
Yeah.
dilute your blood, you can literally dilute your brain, and you get
What?
water toxicity. Yeah,
What?
you can get water toxicity because your body still needs to filter through all that water through your body. If you drink too much, you can actually get water toxicity. Also, your body is just you're going to be peeing like a racehorse. You're
Oh
going to
my
be peeing
God.
like a fire truck if you drink that much water, because your body needs an electrolyte balance in your cells. So even when you do drink a lot of water throughout the day and you're not getting enough salts in your diet, then you're not actually serving yourself with all that water. So yes, it serves you to drink water throughout the day. Like, I mean, even during this episode, I am roasting. I currently live in Basel in Switzerland, and I'm like, it's about 30 degrees. I'm in a storage room, and I'm like, no, I need to keep drinking water to stay hydrated. But I also need to remember I need to make sure I get enough salts in my diet so that that water isn't just going straight through me. My cells are actually rehydrating. They're able to take in that water by osmosis and use that water.
Got it. All right. So, Eugene, let me recap the simple changes that anyone can take in order to prevent or recover from burnout. So, and you tell me if I did good, okay? It's my little test. It's all about self love and compassion, of course. You can start by talking to your family or friends or reaching out to your counselor so you can make it real. And as soon as you make it real, you can address the issue. You can rest, of course. It doesn't work if you exercise all the time, if you have the wrong narrative in your mind that it's not about compassion. Like, that doesn't work. You need to exercise with compassion and take time to rest. Do some hobbies that bring you fulfillment, which eventually should bring joy in your life again. Coming back to the singing in the shower, that was very nice. Drinking water in the morning instead of coffee or other coping mechanisms. Breath work and smiling.
Yeah, again, it all comes down to self-care. You need to work on the self-care routine, because a lot of the time when it leads to burnout, you are not taking care of yourself. A lot of that anxiety and that negative self-narrative of not being good enough comes from you trying to please other people, or feeling like you're not good enough. The imposter syndrome gets in, the anxiety gets in and takes over, and you're constantly trying to prove yourself to others, looking for that external validation from others, and never seeking help because you perceive that as a weakness. Once you start saying, you know what, I'm going to start putting myself first. My priority is me, and only by putting myself first can I take care of others better. So you need to set those boundaries as well. Some people will always overstep your boundaries if you let them. So once you put a boundary in place, some people are not going to like that. They're going to be like, "Oh, but you always did this work for me. You were always there at my beck and call whenever I needed you." And you're like, "Yes, well, Monday evenings is a no-go. That's my recovery time, my rest time. Unless it's a dire emergency, I'm not going to be around, or I'm not going to always be available. These are my set times." It could be at work. It's like, yeah, I used to work late every evening, but now I'm going to finish at 5, maybe 5:30. But later than that, not happening. Setting those boundaries can be uncomfortable for some people at first, but it's like, no, I'm going to take that extra time to take care of myself. Now I'm finishing work early. I'm still going to get the work done. And for some people, they're going to be like, okay, I'm not getting as much work done as before. But you're probably getting more productive work because you only have so much capacity. You only have so much energy in the day. And you can say, okay, now I'm no longer working until midnight because, I was trying to finish a project at last minute. I'm like, no, I've got about a month to finish this project. If I put in 4 hours a day, take breaks, check in on my team, see how they're doing, I'll probably feel better about finishing that project. I'll probably get more done also. There'll be less busy time or less procrastinating. So setting boundaries and managing your time, putting yourself first, will give you more time in your day so that you can be like, okay, I have more energy now to do some exercise. I have more time to, take breaks, catch up with other people, engage more, see what's happening in other people's lives. Be less detached from your team or from your family. Be more present with them. Be more present with yourself. Check in and see how you're doing. And then as you go, as we said, having that smile, having that fake smile, faking it until you make it in a way that, okay, this smiling is more natural to me now. And having that glass of water could be the first step to you saying, well, now that I'm exercising more and I'm drinking more water, maybe going to McDonald's after work is no longer a good choice for me. Maybe I should practice a home cooked meal. When was the last time I made that lasagna? Maybe I should try that lasagna again. Or maybe I should try that seafood stir fry. When was the last time I made that seafood stir fry? I'll try that again when I go home. And there's a sense of accomplishment in home cooked meals. And next thing you're like, okay, now I'm eating healthier. I feel good about myself. And over time, these habits build up. Over time, you stack them on top of each other. And you're like, I'm living a completely different life than I was 6 months, 12 months ago. And I feel good. And it doesn't happen overnight. But you put these activities in place, you put these steps in place over time, and you stack them. And that's the journey to recovery.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Did you ever heard this phrase, this quote? I love this quote. Every corpse on Everest was once an extremely motivated person. Have you heard it before?
No, I've never heard that.
I love this quote. So I mentioned very briefly, I think before we started, that I went through a burnout, right? And this quote helped me realize that I was like burning out. I was like, yeah, like I can see myself die if I continue working in this rhythm, right? So once I think I mentioned that on the podcast twice or three times already. I was working for this extremely well-known game company, and they offer me many opportunities to show my to how to say to improve and to like do side things and improve here and work more on this thing. So they open many doors, and I decided to take them all. And the thing is, one day, I think it was 4 a.m. I was at the office, and the cleaning guy just opened the door. I was like, bro, what the fuck you're doing here? And I realized, like, what the fuck I'm doing here? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like trying to prove myself to someone. I don't know who, just pushing myself at work. And in the back of my mind, it was like, I want to go to bed, but I cannot, I cannot go. I need to finish this. Now, many years later, I realize how like how much I was self-sabotaging myself, I was not doing anything of those changes, self-love and balanced lifestyle that we talked about. And it was during this period of my life that I heard this quote: "Every corpse on Everest was once an extremely motivated person," and hit me. I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not the one becoming the dead corpse on Mount Everest, And it was a slow, gradual process. You know what I'm talking about. You went through it, but I recover. I'm still recovering. It's like a journey, right? So yeah, I just wanted to share this with you. Like I needed you after all of this talk.
But at least you understood that it was a slow process.
Yeah.
It takes time, and you can't do that unless you have compassion for yourself to go through that, to have that consistency, to stop saying like, oh, I haven't reached my end goal. It's been 6 months and I still don't think I don't feel successful as I want to be. Yeah. It's like, no, these things take time. Happiness isn't a destination. It's the process. Happiness is the process of getting to where you want to go. It's like okay, I have an end goal. Like for me, I set a fitness goal about 5 years ago. So I was about 27, and everyone was like, oh yeah, I want to have that 6-pack by summer. And I was like, nah, that's not my goal. And it's like, oh, what are you working towards? And I was like, I want to look like Henry Cavill when I'm 40 years old. And I was like, that's the goal I want. And then they're like, oh, but you could start that in 10 years from now. You don't have to worry about that now. And I'm like, no. I was like, if I want to look like Henry Cavill when I'm 40, if I forget about this for the next 10 years, I'm going to look like Danny DeVito by the time I'm 40. I'm just going to look like a short little fat man. And was there like, but no, was there like, if I work out, and I'm like, well, I probably wouldn't be Danny DeVito anyway because I'm about like 6'4". But I was like, no, I was there like, I didn't want to just become soft and chubby. I was like, no, I need to start putting in work now, small bits over time. I don't want to stress myself out over it, but I want to feel more confident. I want to feel stronger. And if I can feel that way when I'm 40 years old, then I'll probably be doing pretty good in life. I don't know where I'll be. I don't know what kind of work I'll be doing. I don't know where in the world I'm going to be. But if I put in the small steps now over time, it probably won't feel like much over the years. But if I look back when I'm 40 and be like, thank you, 27-year-old Eugene, for giving me the gift of looking like Henry Cavill when I'm 40 and, feeling pretty buff and feeling pretty good about myself. That's a gift I can give my future self. If I put the work in now and say like, look, I'll put in 20 minutes working out today, or I put some time into meal prep and make sure that I'm eating healthy for the week. I'm like, that's a gift that I'm giving to my future self that I can thank myself for 10 years from now and say, thank you for making that effort. Because without making those small steps over a long period of time, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Well, I wish you good luck because, as far as I know, a lot of those Hollywood stars, they're like injecting steroids. I don't know precisely for real, but I heard rumors. I don't know about Henry
Yeah, I mean,
Cavill.
if I can get anywhere near that completely natty, then I'm going to be like, you know what? It took time. It took time to get here. And okay, maybe it might not be as defined, but I feel good about myself. I did a clean way, and I know it's not going to have any adverse side effects over time. But I was like, hey, if I can get to a place where I feel that strong, that confident in myself, when I'm in my 40s, then I'll probably be setting myself up. I'll probably bring other people along the journey. If I'm setting up those habits along the way, I'm probably going to influence others to follow in the same path and be like, you know what, that looks like it's working out for Eugene. Maybe I should try that sometime. Oh, it starts as simple as drinking a glass of water every morning. I could probably do that. That seems pretty silly, or that seems pretty ridiculously easy. There's no reason why I can't do that. Let's start with a glass of water every morning and see where it goes. What other habits can I build? Smiling in the mirror first thing in the morning? That sounds so ridiculous. Why wouldn't I try it? Okay, I'm going to smile at myself in the mirror. Might look crazy for the first few weeks, but it might make me feel better. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, it's no one's business what you're doing in the bathroom in the morning, so why not? Eugene, that was amazing. Thank you so much for this incredible podcast. Could you remind everyone where they can find you, your work, the name of your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, my podcast is probably where you're going to find me the most, and that's give yourself some leeway. Give yourself some leeway, and all my links, if you want to reach out to me, giveyourselfsomeleeway.com is where you're going to find me. Otherwise, I'll be on LinkedIn. Hey, everything's going to be on my website at giveyourselfsomeleeway.com. That's where you can reach out to me. If you want to send me a voice note or a message or anything, or send me an email, just reach out. Let's have a conversation. That's where it all starts. We need to have these conversations and normalize having these discussions if you want to take any action in your life, if you're ready to make any change.
Beautiful. Perfect. Do you have any final remarks? Anything else that you'd like to say?
If anyone is feeling this way or knows anyone who's going through something like burnout, have that conversation with them. Or at least reach out and just ask them, hey, how are you? How are you truly feeling? That could be the first step to them opening up. They might just say, oh, I'm fine, don't really want to talk about it. But it could at least plant a seed for them to think, how are they truly feeling? And don't just brush it off if you think that like someone truly is going through something. They could just be waiting for someone to reach out and say, hey, how are you truly feeling? If you need help, there is support there for you. There is someone listening. If that's the one thing you can do today, reach out to someone, be it a friend, be it your partner, be it someone in your family that you haven't talked to in a while, and just say, hey, I want to check up on you. make sure everything's okay. That could be your win for today. That will be a big win for today.
Got it. Reach out, folks. You heard here first at BruCast with Eugene Lee. Thank you very much, Eugene. It was an absolute pleasure. All right, everyone. So if it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast will be recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BruCast store, Explorer store, filled with awesome goodies, from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. And stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. I repeat, brew-cast.com/store. Links on the description below. BruCast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where we upload highlights of the shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links below. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next time. Thank you very much, Eugene. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So,
That was pretty good. I mean, we're coming up in the 2 hours.